Good morning, folks. First of all, I welcome you all here today to this seminar. And we usually say thank yous at the end, but I'm actually going to say them at the beginning and get them out of the way. And I speak here on behalf of my co-presenters, Dr. Valerie Anderson, Dr. Ronan Carberry, in thanking ACK for organising this excellent seminar. To KFAS for funding it and supporting it. I think that's so important. But most important to Dr. Hussein Eleje, who actually used his wonderful charm and networking skills to convince me that I should come out to Kuwait in December, along with my two co-presenters, to actually present to you today. And I am delighted to have had that opportunity. And it's my first time in Kuwait. I have been in several other countries in the Middle East, in the Gulf states, but I've never been to Kuwait, and it's a great honor to be here. And we've had the level of hospitality has been simply amazing, so that's wonderful. Can I also say that I found Professor Issam's wonderful introduction to be very enlightening, because actually it sets up many of the items that I'm going to talk to you about today, because my presentation is about digital skills in the 21st century, and I'm really going to focus on the role of learning and development in organizations, what that's important. I want to say a few things. First of all, I note that myself and my two esteemed colleagues use the terms learning and development. That's fine. I notice Hussein in his presentation and his title for the seminar used the word training. That's also fine. And we also use a term called human resource development. They have slight differences, but the key thing I would say is that training in its traditional format focused on the job, whereas learning and development has a more organizational emphasis, and human resource development has a slightly broader systems focus. So that's the differences between them. And I also believe we have students here today, so that is wonderful to hear, and to meet students who are studying human resource development, training and development, learning and development, etc. The other thing that I want to flag up, there's one brilliant little statistic in Professor Issam's introduction, and it's this. He said that 60% of the workforce will require a set of skills that only 25% are currently being developed on. And that actually is a really important finding, because it tells me something about the profession of learning and development. I've been involved in researching learning and development for 30 plus years, as you will see from my grey hair. But in that time, we've had many big topics that we've had. I can point to a few movements. We've had the competency movement and all about competencies. We've had e-learning and technology that revolutionized in a big way what we were doing. We've had the learning organization concept. That was another way of thinking about the whole learning and development process in organizations. And now I suggest to you we have the whole thing, the debate around 21st century skills, 21st century digital skills, and all of this is a new paradigm. And on each occasion, I have to say that learning and development as a profession in organizations have been a little late to the party. We've come afterwards. We have started, perhaps it has happened in other areas before we have got to discuss it, but I think it's a great opportunity to see now that we are thinking about what this means. As researchers, and also Professor Issam made reference to the role of researchers, I think researchers are awfully important, because they actually set up and help to consolidate the agenda for learning and development, but also to open up new areas of investigation and avenues for research. And when I did a piece of literature research to set up this paper and to see what was going, I discovered that there were very few papers written in the L&D context on 21st century skills and 21st century digital skills. Yeah, so we're going to move this to technology in a minute. So that's a very interesting thing to the extent that we have a lot of work to do, a big gap to make up. So the presentation that I'm giving you today, I'm writing it up as an editorial for European Journal of Training and Development. We're planning to do a special issue on digital skills and 21st century skills, etc. And we're going to write this up. I also, myself and Ronan, my co-author, and a couple of other authors, we have recently published a major monograph. It should be up on the web next week, looking at the learning and development professional in organizations. What's happening to that professional? And we were talking to Hussein yesterday. We're hoping to replicate the study in the Gulf states, Sudan, Kuwait, and a couple of other countries, so that we can get a cross-cultural comparison. And while we're doing it, I'm going to talk a little bit about what my presentation is about. I think we have a little technology issue here that we're going to resolve in a minute and get my presentation up. But I want to talk about 5 things, 5 topics in relation to digital skills. And first of all, I'm going to talk a little bit, why is there a focus now on digital skills? Why is it high on the agenda? Why is it on the agenda of governments? Why is it on the agenda of organisations? Why is it on the agenda of educators? And why is it of concern to employees? So that's the first thing we're going to look at. Then I'm going to look a little bit about what are 21st century digital skills, because actually there's 2 paradigms in operation. First of all, we have the 21st century skills paradigm, and then we have the 21st century digital skills paradigm. And they haven't necessarily up to now talked to each other and integrated and looked at what each other can contribute. And my proposition on which I'm going to move is that 21st century digital skills are an important subset of 21st century skills, and we integrate them and we come up with something good. Then, because of the practitioner audience we have here, I'm going to look a little bit about what are the agenda issues for organizations. What are the challenges for learning and development specialists? Because they have a lot of challenges to make up. Because I know Dr. Valerie, my co-speaker here today, will be talking a little bit about things, valuation and impact in organizations. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And I also want to talk a little bit about the implications for other stakeholders. And this was alluded to in Professor Ism's excellent setup here, in the sense that other stakeholders, including government, educators, academics, teachers, professors, employers, have a major role to play in making sure that the agenda comes together around the whole skills thing. So we can move. So right. So how do I move this one? Oh yeah. Right. Okay. Now, how do I get that up on the screen? Right. Okay. I want this up on the screen. Right, so that's what I'm going to talk to you about. Right, okay. Now, I'm going to talk to this, we'll move, because we're what I call it, technology will work its way out in the end. Technology, by the way, is brilliant when it works. When it doesn't work, you know what? Alluded to by our esteemed speaker, the teacher is vital. Their ability to communicate what it is we're about, and the whole idea of the person. And so never forget the person in the context of technology. Can I tell you, never forget them. They are so vital to what we're about. But anyway, so I want to pick up on 3 themes. Why is there a debate around digital skills and 21st century skills at the moment? And I suggest to you that there are 3 or 4 reasons. First of all, you may have heard of it, and it actually was implicit in Professor Ism's presentation, the whole idea of Industry 4.0. Industry 4.0 is a paradigm that envisages technology, including the robotics that we saw on the diagram, including autonomous transport systems, including artificial intelligence and human machine learning, which I believe my colleague Dr. Ronan Carby is going to talk about the latter too. So that they envisage a whole world of technology that's going to revolutionize the way industry manufactures, the way it does its business. So the whole idea then is that Industry 4.0 will require a skill set, a different skill set, a skill set that the statistic that our previous speakers mentioned, we aren't focusing on enough yet. Technical skills, leadership skills, interpersonal skills, and digital skills to cope with what are described as disruptive technology. Right, okay, can we see if we can move this on? Oh yeah, right, here we are. Now go back. Yes, we have, I think we have, I'm going to leave it at that in a minute. Therefore, as well, our educators need to think about new qualifications that will align our existing skills to those required by Industry 4.0. So what I'm saying to you is we have a big gap, there's a big alignment job to be done, because interesting, the stat is really great statistic, thank you for finding it, that 25% of our current workforce only have the skills they require in the new, what you call it. Then I've picked out other features or aspects of technology that are changing, that are also bringing into focus our emphasis on 21st century digital skills. The Internet of Me, the whole idea of personalization, customization of experiences. And this is even most pronounced. One of the big developments in learning and development is the whole idea of personalization, customization, and individualization. They're all very important words. I've written a book that's coming out next year, here's my plug now, and it's over, on learning and development in organizations. It will be published by Palgrave. And in the last chapter of that book, we engage with the whole idea around personalization of learning. It's no good giving the same course to everybody now. Now they want, the millennials and the Generation Zs who are about to join the workforce want development that's customized to their needs, that focuses on their career trajectories, their career interests, all of that. So the Internet of Me is a really important thing. Then Workforce Reimagined. This is a whole idea that we're going to be a collaborative entity, a collaborative organization, where there's a greater integration between machines and people, and the whole idea of using that integration to develop new opportunities utilizing technology. Then we have what's called intelligent automation. Then we have the whole idea of intelligent automation, artificial intelligence, using our AI to develop employee skills, which resulting in maybe some loss of occupations and the creation of new ones. And then we have what's called the liquid workforce, the whole idea that we have a organization that's highly adaptable, that can change, can move, can structure itself really differently to actually develop and respond to market forces. Ambidexterity, words like that, agility, those are all new concepts that we're all experiencing now. So they're the reasons why we have, they're the reasons why we're going to have this new skill paradigm. So, as I alluded to at the beginning, there are two strands going on. There's 21st century skills and 21st century digital skills. So, in terms of those two things, right now, this has three components to it. We leave it as it is for a moment, we'll sort it in a sec. Okay, because I just want to follow where we're going. I apologize for this, but we just need our technology to align with us in terms of what we're about. Okay, this framework suggests three skills that you need. Learning skills, literacy skills, and what are called life skills. So learning skills are focusing on things like creativity, critical thinking, innovation, problem solving, communication, and collaboration. They're the learning skills. Then we have what are called literacy skills, information technology, media, and ICT. Then we have life skills, the piece that's often ignored, flexibility, adaptability, initiative, self-direction, social and cultural skills, productivity and accountability, leadership and responsibility. That's the first framework. Then there's a second one called assessing and teaching 21st century skills. And they talk about four things: ways of thinking, ways of working, tools of working, and living in the world. Those are very interesting. These are all the 21st century skills. So the ways of thinking cover, like the previous framework, critical thinking, problem solving, decision making, learning to learn. Ways of working, three things: communication, technology, collaboration, all of that. Tools of working, literacy, technology literacy, information literacy, and then living, our life goals, our career goals, our personal and social responsibility. So now, digital skills then, what are they? Digital skills are considered to be something that allows us to respond to 21st century knowledge society requirements, technological changes, etc. So I see them as a discrete set of the 21st century skills, whereas 21st century skills are not underpinned by ICT, digital 21st century skills are. So what kind of things are we talking about? Digital competence, information management, knowledge sharing, information sharing, the creation, curation of content and knowledge, problem-solving technical capabilities, and then the use of digital technologies to transform what we do and mobilize those skills. So those are all things that are important. Now, there's one particular framework which I came across, which is very useful, and you'll find in the presentation, which identifies three types of digital skills: digital literacy, e-skills, and digital mindset. So the literacy is the ability to understand information from sources, the ability to use digital sources effectively, to link cognitive and emotional skills to solve problems in digital environments. That's the first one. The e-skills, to be able to participate in an ICT environment where you have electronically enabled information and the development of synthesis of that knowledge. Then you have digital mindset, to be able to think digitally, to be able to intuitively work in a digital environment that allows us to access knowledge embedded in that particular environment. So those things are mightily important. So in effect, what we have then, so what we're proposing is, I'm proposing that we integrate, here we are, this is where we are now. So let's keep it on this one. Don't move it, folks. Technology, please don't move it, right? So I'm saying we have a 21st century skills concept that merges the digital and the soft skills. And I'm saying it has four key components: a mastery of ICT applications to solve problems and cognitive tasks at work, skills that support higher ways of thinking and new ways of thinking, skills that are not technology-based, but focus on collaboration, teamworking, networking, and cross-cultural awareness, and skills that enable employees to continuously learn and develop. Now, the very interesting thing is, this came out in Professor Ism's presentation. The whole idea of employees must continuously learn. They don't learn in little discrete steps. They don't learn at particular points in their career anymore. They learn right throughout their career. And that's a very important challenge for learning and development in organizations. Because in the most recent study that I referred to, we found out 3 or 4 very important things about how learning and development professionals, specialists, do their work. Don't touch it. It's fine. Please, don't touch it. Leave it. Yes, okay? 1, the classroom is still king. Trainers love the classroom. I do think the classroom is very important. Everybody loves the classroom. They love the, 2, low take-up of technology and integration of technology into training. That's a very important thing. So Third thing that we found out that was very interesting. L&D professionals are not very good at using information, not good at using evidence, not good at integrating their data, big data, into their decision-making processes. And then something that I know Dr. Valerie is going to talk about. They're not good at evaluating how well they're doing. Is training worth it? Does learning and development pay? Does it contribute? Does it add value in organizations? They're not good at doing that. They do stage 1 evaluation, as you all know, but they don't do the other higher levels to find out what the real impact is. Is it worth it? So there's what I'm suggesting, and I'm sure that all the wonderful L&D people that are in this audience are no different from the ones in Europe and US that we surveyed. Likewise, they've experienced challenges with these things. So that's what I'm suggesting. So now the next thing is, what does it mean for organizations? And I'm conscious here that we have a practitioner audience. What does it mean? And I'm saying that we need to develop core skills and contextual skills, and this has to be the agenda for learning and development. If it's going to contribute to a digital skills revolution in organizations and bring that 25% that our professor referred to up to 50 to 60% of the workforce who are accomplished in what they do. So that's the big move. So we have, as a learning and development specialist, professional, manager, director, whatever level, these are the core skills that I've identified from the literature that are important to achieve a 21st century skills agenda. The first one is skills to use mobile devices and applications to accomplish work tasks. Increasingly, we hear about mobile learning. Increasingly, mobile learning is delivered in small bite sizes, 24/7, anytime, anywhere. That's increasingly the paradigm. Second thing is to develop information management skills, to use ICT, to search, select, and organize information. Thirdly, communication skills, to transmit ICT and information to others effectively, using ICT. Collaboration, to develop networks and work in teams to exchange knowledge. Because I love the phrase that was mentioned earlier, knowledge is power, but actually sharing of knowledge is even greater power. I actually thought that was a really good, I'll be borrowing that little phrase from my article that I'll be writing, because that's a very interesting phrase. So we share knowledge, we exchange knowledge, we share knowledge within organizations, but we also share it across boundaries. So they are skills we need to develop. Problem-solving skills to process and understand complex situations, and critical thinking skills to make informed judgments and choices about information. Those are all very important things that we've got to develop. So that's our core skills agenda. But I'm suggesting to you that that is not, my apologies. That is not our only agenda. There's another one. We also have to develop what I called contextual skills. And those are important. Cultural understanding and respect other cultures when using ICT. So we're a globalized world, we're a networked world, we're an integrated world. So we got to develop this. Skills to adapt one's thinking, behaviors, and attitudes in a fast-changing work environment. So I suggest to you, it's as much about our thinking, our mindset around technology. Ethical awareness in the use of ICT. We need to be ethically oriented and ethically focused employees. Self-direction, very important. Proactivity, setting goals, managing learning, crafting your career, crafting your learning process. Not waiting for the organization to do it for you, but you doing it and you shaping it as learners. Lifelong learning skills to constantly explore new opportunities when using ICT. And this is where we leave education, but our learning has only started. We continue that journey. And skills to implement a continuous development and improvement mindset. And I think one of the big challenges for learning and development practitioners is to move away from the idea that learning and development is a course. It's something you do in a classroom. No, it's part of the job. It's integrated into our work. So we've got to be able to move that particular mindset and to think about development in everything we do. And the whole movement and the interesting shift that has taken place in learning and development in recent years is the emphasis on informal development, the emphasis on informal learning, through conversations, through water cooler events, through interactions, through information search, through learning from mistakes, through bouncing ideas with others. That's how we learn. They are important pieces in the whole thing. So increasingly, when I remember back to a very famous book which started off all of this profession. It was called Kenny, Donnelly and Reid, Training in Organizations, way back. I think it was published in 1977. And I have a copy of that book still. I studied it as part of my undergraduate degree. And if you look through the chapters of that book, you will see no chapters on informal learning. You will see no chapters on collective learning, on the learning organization. All you will see is classroom-based learning and learning on the job. Instruction on the job. They're the only two concepts you will see in that book. That's where learning and development was in 1977. Right, in 2019, you will find chapters in an L&D book on collaborative learning, collective learning, and social learning. You will see chapters on using technology to enable learning. You will see chapters on informal learning, incidental learning, all of those topics, as well as the traditional. You will see the traditional, the classroom will still be there, but then you will see pedagogy and learning design theory for mobile learning, e-learning, digital learning, all of those. So the whole topic has expanded. So we have to think differently. And as well as that, you would never see in the 1977, there was no chapter on the ethics and professionalism associated with the L&D profession. I'm delighted to see that our previous speaker emphasized the whole issue of professions. The professionalization of L&D is an important pursuit for professional organizations, for organizations, employer organizations, and also for us academics who research L&D. They're important pieces. So now, what are the challenges for L&D practitioners? I'm starting here from the premise that we're a little bit behind. We have some work to make up. We have a mind shift change to make. We also, dare I say it, have a skill set change that we need to make and a shift to enable us to do it. So, L&D need to develop their competencies to integrate digital skills into soft skills training. So that's a big challenge for us. We're not used to doing that. L&D, if you talk to L&D professionals, which I've done a lot of work with and which we did quite a bit for the research monograph which we're producing, they loved all of the soft skills piece, but they weren't as comfortable when it came to digital and technology. The second thing they have to do, they have to be leaders and define the digital skills agenda for their organization. Get it integrated into their policy statements, into their mission statements, into their plans and activities. Then promote that agenda with key stakeholders. Convince line managers, convince senior managers, convince funders, external agencies that this agenda is very important. Then I think they have to develop the ITC literacy and technological capability of L&D professionals. We asked in our study, where were L&D professionals in terms of ICT technological capability? And on a score of 1 to 5, they were about a 2. That's a long way to go. So there's a lot of work. When you ask them about their learning design skills, they were a 4 or 5. When you ask them about their interpersonal skills, they were 4 or 5. But when you ask them about their digital skills, their technological capabilities, they were a 2. Big journey to make. Investment in upskilling. Clearly, if that 25% is to move, we have to develop our workforce. That's highly resource intensive. That requires a lot of financial resources as well as human resources and capability. Develop metrics to strengthen accountability for achievements. The profession is not a very metric-driven profession, even though organizations are increasingly into KPIs, big organizational stretch goals, all of that. Us as a profession are not as good at this topic as we want to call it. And then, of course, the big thing, and I liked the idea in the earlier speech, we have a fluid talent market. So people leave. People with digital skills will become highly attractive, highly sought after. So we have to think about how we use learning and development to retain our good staff, our human resources who have digital capabilities. So that's a big agenda for L&D. So as you can see, I'm going to conclude on this piece before I talk about it. L&D has much ground to make up. Not technology focused, not evidence-based, poor evaluation and metrics. That sums up what we found in our study. That's where we are. I could also say on the other hand, but it's not totally relevant to this, but they're brilliant on the soft skills of learning and development. They're brilliant on the philosophy of learning and development. They're brilliant on the human piece, understand the learning process, all of that. We're really good at those things. And we understand the individual organizational goal thing, the piece individual needs, organization needs, that tension in organizations. We really understand that, and we're good at trying to balance it. And in fact, in our day-to-day work, I'm sure, and in talking to professionals, I know, that's something that they find increasingly challenging to balance, because individuals now, millennials, Generation Zs, they want to be self-crafters. They want to manage their own careers. They want to develop their own learning agenda. They may want to do things that the organization would traditionally not support, but are important for their employability. Employability is a very important topic. Now, I want to allude to other stakeholders as well that are important to our Now, I emphasize other stakeholders here to include educators, policymakers, learners, trade unions, workforces, etc. Right. I think when I looked at all the literature on digital skills, I came up with these conclusions. Many major blind spots in how we go about developing these skills. Do we need new pedagogies? Do we need to look at different ways of developing them? How do we catch or gain access to a large proportion of the workforce to bring that 25% up? A lack of scientific evidence highlighting what the development task should be. There's a lot of policy stuff. In fact, I would suggest to you that education has done better on this in terms of this whole agenda than, say, organisation training and the L&D profession and OB and those areas. So we need to, as researchers, we need to generate the scientific evidence. Limited involvement of learners. We need to bring learners into the process. I advocate an inclusive approach. So we need to bring learners in as stakeholders, understand what their agendas are. What are their fears? What are they worried about when it comes to technology? How do we address those in our development interventions? Major need to develop digitally competence among educators. Dare I say it, I'm in the business quite a while. We grew up in an era and worked in an era where technology wasn't at the forefront. Teaching was. Mind you, it's come in useful today. But we need to get our educators to be au fait, confident, comfortable with using technology to deliver not their only basis, but to integrate it, a blended approach. Bring it into how we do things. That's awfully important. So we need to do that. Then, I think we need policy support. Education institutions need to resource this. New curriculum development, the integration of technology. I did a little, for example, I reviewed 24 master's programs in HRM and learning and development in the UK, in the US, and in Ireland, where I come from. I found only 2 of those programs had an explicit module on big data and data analytics. 2 programs. I found very few programs in learning and development that had a whole module on technology-enabled learning. even though in the UK, the Institute of Personnel and Development have incorporated these pieces into their agenda now. I found very little that looked at new developments in pedagogy and andragogy that accommodate and integrate the digital era in which we find ourselves. So there's a lot of work to be done where we need to integrate technology into teaching and develop curricula that speak to the demands of the 21st century workforce and all of that. Not enough work being done, I suggest, by technology developers to understand the pedagogy. What is it that's different about these things? You can design fancy stuff, but does it align with the way people learn? That's important. Then we need a multi-stakeholder approach that acknowledges and works in the motivations of each group. And we also need to look at the cultural, institutional context in which they operate, the challenges they face. So what I'm suggesting to you is that it needs a very big approach that's multi-stakeholder and that manages potentially competing and conflicting agendas and makes them work. And the basic point is, as learning and development professionals, we need to be inclusive in how we do things. We need to bring our learners on board. Don't do it top-down. Top-down won't get buy-in. Because remember, our learners have to participate in these development processes. And where we use technology, the research shows low participation rates, low completion rates. So we got to bring all of that to the fore. So I suppose in summary, and we'll finish in a minute, I think we have opportunity for questions, yes? Yes, I will take some questions. We have some of the foundations are in place, but we now need to embrace this agenda and go through all our policies and practices in organizations, future-proof them, check them, and make sure that they are set up to bring the 25% of current workforce up into 50, 60, and 70% who need to develop on this. So on that, I thank you very much for your time, and I'll be delighted to open it up for some questions now. Thank you. Yeah.